what's up YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review and thoughts as well, I'm going to be taking a look at the Nintendo eShop release of Warframe for the Nintendo Switch, also available on PS4, Xbox One, and PC and Steam. But for this review, we're going to be taking a look at the Switch version. And if you are interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link in the description down below. I remember playing Warframe when it came out around the time when the PS4 originally launched. I think that was back in 2013. That might have been it though. And at the time, it was a interesting game when it came out. It was at that time I wasn't really great at first person or third person shooters, or at least my skill wasn't exactly 100% perfect on it though. And I didn't know much about the game and all that. I played it for a little bit and then pretty much forgot about it. But to my surprise, I didn't know the fact that since the game originally came out on the PS4, the game has grown. It has evolved, it has changed, it has certainly formed a tight community and all that stuff, and many have dubbed it as Destiny before Destiny came out. And while Destiny continues to struggle in terms of pissing off their audience, to be exact, not to mention when the first one came out, it was overhyped to the point where people were treating it like it was the second coming of Jesus or the game to end all video games, and that didn't really happen. Warframe continued to evolve and continue to basically start garnering support, and so far that has certainly has gained an audience though. So much to my surprise when learning this year that Warframe was coming to the Nintendo Switch, and surprisingly Panic Button, the same development team that managed to pull off Doom and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus onto the Nintendo Switch, would be handling this port. So how does it play out? How does it work and all that stuff? Well, while I can't really compare it to the other versions, and there's a good chance that the other versions are probably a bit better, Warframes on the Nintendo Switch, however, plays well, and it runs very well on the Nintendo Switch. So why don't we get started with the pros and the cons. So we'll start off first with the pros. The first one is the gameplay. I have to say the gameplay is fun and enjoyable though. I like the whole idea. I like the whole third person combat, also with the melee combat as well. It basically lives up to the name of like you are a space ninja and all that stuff. So it's a solid third person shooting mechanics and so forth. For me, I went with I think their equivalent of what would be an assault rifle and so forth, with dual blades to be exact. But combat wise, it is fun. The next thing I do want to talk about is that although this game is I believe, if I'm saying this correctly, an MMO RPG, you can play this game solo if you want to. I mean, yes, you could play this with a friend and all that stuff, and if you want to do that, you can do that. But you can play this solo if you want to, and for the most part, that's what I've been playing it so far. Mostly to collect materials and so forth, to craft new items, and so on. So in terms of this game though, you can enjoy it with friends, you can enjoy it solo. It's also, and it's worth pointing out, and I think I remember hearing about this, is that you don't need Nintendo's online, you don't need to be part of Nintendo's online subscription, and you can do voice chat without the god-awful, phone or the phone app or anything like that. So but overall this game can be enjoyed with friends or solo. The next thing I want to talk about is the free-to-play mechanics. Now, for those who don't know, this game is free to download, but it does contain microtransactions and so forth. And in an age where we live, where after what we saw with Star Wars Battlefront 2, there are people who are very iffy about games with microtransactions though. This one, you don't have to worry as much about it though. From what they've marketed and from what they said, and I've played this for a bit though, you don't have to spend money or anything like that, or at least earlier on in the game or anything like that. You could spend money if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to in general. I chose to spend money on some stuff though, but for the most part, this isn't like a mobile game where it's like a free to wait or anything like that. You could jump right into the combat and go straight right into it though. The only thing that where there is sort of a waiting period would be when you collect some of the materials and the blueprints. That there may be some where you may have to wait for a certain thing to be completed in basically like 24 hours, but other than that, everything else you could just jump right in right away, so you don't have to worry about it being like a free to wait kind of game or sort of like a pay to speed up the process or anything like that. So for the most part, it's a free to pay game done right. And last but certainly not least, I will say graphically and visually speaking, the game isn't that bad. It looks very impressive for a game running on the Nintendo Switch. Now granted though, it's not going to look anywhere near the level of what the Xbox One, the PS4, or the PC or Steam version though. Keep in mind, I believe this is running at 720p at 30 frames per second, so you're not going to get the 1080p 60 frames per second that the other versions probably have. More than likely the PC and Steam version will have that as well. That said though, I didn't mind the game running at 720p 30 frames per second. Yes, I would prefer 1080p 60 frames per second, but if it's running at a stable 30 frames per second though, I'm okay with that. And for the most part though, the game runs very solid at 30 frames per second. The only time I saw this frame rate kind of take a dip was in one part which acts like a hub where you see the other your other characters from other players as well. That's where I kind of saw the frame rate kind of dip a little bit. But in terms of going through the levels and so far, I didn't run into any problems like that at all. So overall, I will say Panic Button did it again. Though this game is impressive for the on the Nintendo Switch. May not be exactly like the PS4 or Xbox One and PC version, but it does look good for a Nintendo Switch game. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and that will be the con. So we'll take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review and thoughts on the game Warframe for the Nintendo Switch. So now that I gave you my pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And for the cons though, I could think of 3 things. So we'll start with the first one. Now, as I said in the pro, on the last part, I talked about the game looking good even for a Switch game, and I applaud the fact that Panic Button was able to pull it off and all that stuff, and that still holds. That said though, there are occasions where I saw some glitches, and as I mentioned earlier, some frame rates kind of took a bit of a hit. In terms of glitches though, there are some cases where I see where certain enemies will get stuck between like either an object or between a wall or something like that, and they're kind of like stuck there though. Sometimes I saw some of the enemies kind of sort of spin around in circles so forth, but nothing, I will say nothing that basically crashed the game or anything like that. It basically is but basically there are, I did see some glitches occasionally here and there, but nothing that ruined the game. And as I mentioned about the frame rate, there is one area, like I mentioned in the last part, that it kind of takes a bit of a hit in a way, and that's mostly in the hub areas. In the level areas, not really that much. I didn't really see anything like that though. But I will say that while visually still looks good, there are certain times when I do see some glitches here and there. The next thing I do want to talk about is playing the game solo though. Now, while you can enjoy the game solo, and I've had so far though, there are occasions where some of the missions might be a bit difficult, and that's where you may have to join with another group or bringing like your friends or anything like that to help you out. Most of these might be some of those defend missions to be exact, or some of the capture missions and so forth. I mean, I'm not saying it's not impossible to play these levels solo. I mean, I've done one defend mission. I was able to complete it solo to be exact, but some of the missions might be difficult if you're playing it solo though, so there may be a case where you may have to join up with other people to sort of help you out. And that, last but not least, is the fact that there is really no offline mode. I'm aware this is a free-to-play game and it's always online, but this is one of the areas concerns I have with this being on the Nintendo Switch. I'm not against the game coming to the Nintendo Switch, nor am I against games like Fortnite or paddling coming over. But given the fact that the Switch is designed as a portable console or a console handheld hybrid or a console you bring with you on the go, you are sort of limited with it though. While you can bring the Switch everywhere, and if you're hooked up to a Wi-Fi, you could play these always online games. When you're not hooked up in a Wi-Fi, you can't really play them at all though, which is one of the reasons why it would have been nice if Warframe sort of had an offline mode. So if you're not in a Wi-Fi area, you can continue to play the game. You most likely will play it solo though, but you will still be able to play the game though. Again, I'm not saying this is a huge negative or anything like that. If you're in an area with a Wi-Fi, or if you have a strong internet connection or anything, or if that area has a strong internet connection though, you'll be able to play the game. But if you're in an area like that doesn't have like any internet connection, like if you're you're in your car, or if you're on an airplane, if you decide not to pay for the Wi-Fi on the airplane or anything like that, you won't be able to more than likely you won't be able to play games like Warframe or even Fortnite or paddling. I think it would have been nice to see some sort of like offline mode for the Switch version of Warframe, to be exact. Overall, Warframe is surprisingly a fun game though. I like the combat, I like the gameplay, both the melee combat and the gunplay though, and it's one of the few free-play games that I do enjoy though. It doesn't come off as a free-to-wait kind of game or anything like that, and if you want to, you don't have to spend money though. I chose to spend money on maybe just a few things here and there, but you could mostly don't have to spend money if you don't want to. I'm aware it's the whole microtransactions, and that might turn some people off, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm playing like, say, Clash of Clans, where they're basically creating a situation that's forcing you to spend money or anything like that. But it's nice that the game finally come to the Nintendo Switch. It is somewhat disappointing there's no cross-platform or cross-play for now, though. Hopefully we'll see if that changes down the road. But if you are looking for a good free-to-play game and heard some good things about, excuse me, if you're looking for a good free-to-play game, I would say give Warframe a try though. The game certainly has gotten a good reputation, especially on other platforms though, and I'm glad it's that it's on the Nintendo Switch. Okay, this concludes my thoughts and video review of Warframe for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Warframe on the Nintendo Switch? Do you think the game runs well on the Nintendo Switch? Do you don't mind the game running at 720p 30 frames per second, or do you prefer it running at 1080p 60 frames per second like the PS4, Xbox One, or PC or Steam version though? Is the game being free to play an issue with you, especially with the microtransactions, or is it a non-issue at all? Are you playing the game solo, or are you joining with a bunch of group of people or friends to play the game? Do you think the game should have had an offline mode, or does it being always online not really an issue at all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it, and if you do, and I hope you also subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I do. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good evening then. Bye!